and Karina, Carvalho. Hello and welcome to our special coverage of the final full day of the Royal Tour. I'm Karina, Carvalho.
And I'm Michael Usher. You're live with 7 News right across Australia as Sydney prepares to put on a party.
That Australia has become a stronger nation as a result of becoming one of the most multicultural on earth.
It sneezed on me.
That was so exciting.
It's been a busy morning for King Charles and Queen Camilla on a day of jam-packed activities across the harbour city.
Well, within the next 45 minutes, they will head to a community barbecue before the big meet and greet at the Opera House.
Our team of reporters will have every moment covered for you throughout this afternoon.
But we're going to start with Annie Puller, who's in Parramatta this morning. Annie, good afternoon now to you. A community barbie is about to start there.
Good afternoon, Michael. Well, as you can see, the stage is officially set for this backyard barbecue. The royal couple will be getting a true taste of the Aussie spirit here. You can see plenty of activity. And this is Christian, the man of the moment from Greater Sydney Parklands. Christian, the King and Queen are expected to stop by this environmental setup here. What will take place?
Well, we're really excited that they actually will stop at our store because we are recreating the original habitats that were here in the Greater Sydney area. So we have an eel mandala going over there. Only natives are used. The kids will put their little native habitats in there. They'll make little animals. And we're hoping the King will be interested to see how we revegetate and get Sydney's green spaces to look what they used to look like.
And you can see the kids are working away here. They've all been very excited. What exactly are they doing right now?
Well, down here they're getting some decorations for themselves. So we've prepared some little nature crowns that they can decorate themselves. So they are the little king and queen of the day as well.
Perfect. And do you mind if we talk to some of them while they're in action? Guys, how excited are we today to see the king and queen?
Very excited.
Yeah. And what are you making here? Is this something special for Queen Camilla?
I think so.
You're not sure?
Not really.
That's okay. We'll let you keep working away until you figure it out. Guys, as you can see over here, we've got a backyard barbecue set up, Chop and Ben. I spoke to them earlier. The pressure is on to create the perfect royal snag. We also have volunteers from Surf Lifesaving Sydney that will be getting behind the tools. But just a wonderful day here in Western Sydney, celebrating what Australia does best. We've got sheepdogs at the back, we've got fire trucks, and we have seen a few celebrities floating around in the crowd, Michael.
Yeah, I understand, Annie, if I'm right, you've spoken to Delta Goodrem, is that correct?
We did. We spotted Delta from a mile away, Michael, but she isn't performing this time. She's one of 700 people who have been invited here as a guest. Take a listen to that chat a little earlier.
I'm excited to be here today, and I love when I'm very patriotic Australian, and I love being able to see everybody come together today. So
you are a demonstration of what Australia does best. How important is it to celebrate Australian spirit and community, especially when we have the monarch in town?
At all times, I love to say, look at our beautiful country, look what we do, and I think that that's just an amazing way to be able to share that.
As you can see, Michael, we've just taken a walk here. This is just giving you an up-close and personal look of what the King and Queen can expect here today. Many food stalls, award-winning food stalls, I should say. Some ladies there doing some test tasters. I'll come into these guys. They look like they're holding something special. Guys, Annie here from Channel 7. Can we ask what you'll be serving up today?
Yes, we've got our certified organic fed pasture-raised chicken kasundi.
Perfect. And will the King and Queen be stopping by for a test taste?
They will be, absolutely.
And how much work has gone into preparing this meal here?
Yeah, so Tim and I grow all of the chickens ourselves. So there's been weeks and weeks of growing them, and then it's been weeks of organising the recipe, and yeah, it's been an amazing experience.
Good luck. Thanks so much, guys. As you can see, just so much effort has been put into this day. A really colourful display of Western Sydney, and I guess the King and Queen, for them this will be their most hands-on event. They have backyard cricket on the cards, plenty of food as you've seen, and also as we make our way over here, this is the sheepdog section. Now, I chatted to Murray before. He's usually a star at the Royal Sydney show. He will be doing a sheep demonstration for the King and Queen. Quite a lot of moving pieces here, guys. You can probably see the sheep up in the back corner. There's also some ducks floating around. Somehow they'll come into it all, but no doubt this is expected to be a star attraction when the King and Queen do arrive.
Annie, what are you looking forward to tasting there? Because the whole point of this community barbecue is to put on show not just the state's regional produce, but as well what a multicultural melting pot Western Sydney is.
Well, Karina, I can't go past a snag. I was chatting to Chop and Ben earlier. They've got several different flavours. I did ask them to get behind the barbie, but I think we should leave this one to the professionals. I don't want to be serving up a dodgy sausage to the king, but I'm told he is plant-based as well, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there, whether he does go for a typical Australian snack. If that's not his preference, as you've seen, there's plenty of other options on choice. We've got a traditional dance happening here as we speak. If you want to just take a listen in. Guys, we can expect to see plenty more demonstrations like this today. We're told there will be school children also performing, so dance will definitely be front and centre. As you said, Karina, this is all about celebrating Australian culture, and just amazing to see the roll call of Western Sydney identities they have here today. We've also just spoken to Commissioner Karen Webb. We're told Detective Inspector Amy Scott, who bravely took down that Bondi Junction attacker, will be attending here today. She will be receiving and meeting the King and Queen, just among a number of guests that will be doing that today, just highlighting the incredible work ordinary Australians are doing every single day.
No, that's a really important meeting, isn't it? And a right honour there for the royal family, in fact, to be meeting Amy Scott, not just necessarily the other way around. Okay, Annie, I'll give you a mission. Go and find, I saw the jam and the preserves section behind you there. Go and find your jam of choice and a good scone, because I think that's what the King and Queen love. Yeah, the cameraman's already headed there. He's heading off on a mission to get the right jam. Find a great jam. You go and do that. Go and find a scone and jam for us. We'll come back to you when you've got that.
Well, let's go live now to Paul Caddick in Surrey Hills. Paul, it's been a busy morning for the Royals. Has there been a lot of food involved?
There's been a lot happening. They're heading to Western Sydney, obviously a bit later, but the inner city is where the King and Queen have spent their morning, going their separate ways this morning. We were here on Crown Street, where Queen Camilla came to visit an outlet of Oz Harvest, the charity, while King Charles was just a few streets away at the National Centre for Indigenous Excellence over in Redfern. And there His Majesty received a traditional welcome, including a smoking ceremony. And then he was greeted by Indigenous dancers and community leaders and shown through the centre, meeting with a range of community representatives, people from the Go Foundation, the National Aboriginal Sporting Chance Academy, the Inner City Empowered Communities Group, and elders from the local community. There's always been a great level of Indigenous interest, Indigenous affairs, the Indigenous community, wherever they've gone, getting that at the National Centre for Indigenous Excellence in Redfern this morning. Also getting a hug while he was there as well, speaking with the elders. While here on Crown Street in Surrey Hills, Her Majesty Queen Camilla was visiting the Refectorio Oz Harvest. It is a place where the Oz Harvest charity that has been going now for 20 years, famous around Australia. They are the people who rescue food and make sure it is cooked up and served to people in need. And at this outlet here in Surrey Hills, they serve some 500 guests a week. Queen Camilla was shown through the operation, meeting some of the thousands of volunteers that Oz Harvest has. Looking at some of the work getting underway for the lunch that is just happening now. They're just starting lunch right now. Seeing the work going on in the kitchen and meeting chefs who've been long-time supporters of Oz Harvest, like Matt Moran. We spoke to Matt shortly after the visit.
It was nice. It was fantastic. You know, I've been a big supporter of Oz Harvest and Ronnie for, 15 years. And strangely enough, I'm very good friends with the Queen's son, Tom. Tom and I did a TV show for a couple of years, many years ago. So, yeah, I've been texting saying I'm going to meet your mum.
A lot of interest from Queen Camilla in how the produce where it comes from, the fresh produce they use. On the menu today was a crispy potato, fermented cheese, Persian tea, heirloom tomatoes and house pickles. Camilla, though, saving herself, I think, for the barbecue out at Parramatta Park a little later on. The Queen spent quite a lot of time actually meeting with people who were just waiting outside. The visit here wasn't completely expected, so a lot of people were just wandering past when they saw the entourage and stopped to have a chat to Her Majesty, including having a chat to a man with a parrot, and we'll hear from him in our coverage throughout the afternoon. The Queen then moving on to a library at Green Square, where she's meeting with children who've taken part in the Queen's Commonwealth Essay Competition, presenting some prizes there. The King is investigating sustainable housing too. Some of the issues that they're hoping to highlight as they tour around Sydney into this afternoon before heading out to Parramatta.
Okay, Paul Caddick, thank you so much for that roundup of this morning. And I think we can actually bring you some live pictures now of King Charles inspecting that sustainable housing development in Cowper Street in Glebe in Sydney's inner west. He's in there somewhere. It'll be interesting to see whether he's having to wear a hard hat and high vis. I can't imagine that would be part of the usual sartorial setup.
Probably wouldn't be a visit to Australia unless you get in high vis somewhere. Standard work uniform. That's an interesting area, actually. We'll come back to that because that redevelopment of Glebe, like a lot of inner city parts of various cities around Australia, has taken on a real rejuvenation with social housing as well. And the King's Trust has been part of the design in all of that well. So not just a visit, there's a vested interest as well, but we'll come back to that.
Yeah, and he's been joined by the Prime Minister as well as the New South Wales Premier Chris Minns there. We'll bring you more of those pictures soon.
All right, now Taylor Aiken joins us live at the Opera House, which is going to be the star centrepiece of a visit later on. That is going to be a memorable afternoon there, Taylor.
It certainly will, Michael and Karina. Now, security here is incredibly tight, and we're still at least 4 hours away from the King and Queen arriving here at the Sydney Opera House for that meet and greet. We've had police divers scouring the waterline here looking for anything suspicious that may have been thrown overboard. And just behind me, you can see the scores of police that are here assessing the situation. They're lining the perimeter. We've also seen the dog squad and the bomb squad sweeping this area, leaving no stone unturned in making sure that this is a safe and memorable day. Now, as I mentioned, we're still at around 4 hours away from the King and Queen arriving here, but already from about 9:30 this morning, there was a queue growing outside the Sydney Opera House. People queuing up, waiting for their moment. The gates don't open until 3 o'clock, so there will be a long wait in that line. And then once the gates open, they will be allowed through to secure their spot in the hopes of meeting the King and Queen. Now, we are expecting huge crowds here. If we judge anything over the last couple of days, there's been a lot of interest, a lot of intrigue in meeting the royals. And the last time a sovereign was in Sydney and did meet with crowds was, of course, the late Queen Elizabeth II, who met with crowds here at the Sydney Opera House in 2006. Once that meet and greet is over, it's all eyes onto to the harbour, where there will be a fleet review. Now, the King is the Colonel-in-Chief of the Royal Australian Defence Corps, and there will be a fleet review conducted. So lots of Navy vessels going ahead and alongside the King there. They will be accompanied by the Chief of the Defence Force, the Chief of Navy, and Governor-General Sam Mostyn. So plenty of excitement here at the Sydney Opera House and on the harbour, even if it's still quite a few hours away.
That is going to be pretty special when they all get there, and what a magic day for it too there, Taylor. You'll have the prime spot. Thank you for that.
And these are live pictures that are coming to us from Green Square Library in Zetland, where Queen Camilla is meeting students participating in a series of writing workshops. I think there are some top Australian authors there as well, like Thomas Keneally and Leanne Moriarty of Big Little Lies fame. So we might just listen in. I think they're about to have an official photograph taken.
Thank you. Everybody.
Everyone's trying to step back on, please, bro.
Everybody.
Can we get everyone look in the middle, please? Thank you very much. Thank you.
Smiles, everybody.
Very quiet.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, man. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's bring in our foreign editor, Hugh Whitfeld. Hugh, there are some of the British snappers there.
Yeah, Chris Jackson from Getty. He's William and Kate's favourite photographer, taken plenty of pictures of the kids if it's not Kate behind the lens. He's one of the Royals' favourites. That's Roy Anika, who's the Sunday Times royal correspondent as well. So they are obviously keenly interested in this library visit that has taken place in Zetland. The Queen looks after a reading room. She started a Queen's reading room about 3 years ago, during COVID actually, to get people involved in reading. She's spoken about it on Instagram. She was conducting kind of virtual book club talks on Zoom as well. So it's one of those...
branched out into a charity.
Branched out into a charity and branched out to Green Square Library now as well, which is fantastic. One of those causes that she's taken and run with since Charles came to the throne.
Yeah. And Hugh, just whilst we have you at the desk as well, you're going to be here all afternoon, but the places they've chosen to visit today around Sydney, obviously carefully chosen. Why?
Well, look, I think obviously that first visit that the King undertook to the Aboriginal Enterprise Centre in Redfern, that was chosen well before the events yesterday involving Lydia Thorpe. But he spoke in his speech inside Parliament House about the connection that he feels to the wisdom of Australia's Indigenous people. There was always going to be a First Nations element to the visits today. And, for example, the Queen's visit to that library, but also to Oz Harvest. UK Harvest is a charity that she's the patron of. It's the offshoot of Oz Harvest, started here 20 years ago by Ronnie Khan. And so what we're seeing is this split program really focus on some of the things that the King is interested in. And here he is at the Cowper Street development in Glebe. As you mentioned, Michael, the King's Trust, which was, of course, the Prince's Trust, but renamed following his accession, is helping with some of the design aspects of that huge development that is underway in Glebe.
Interesting on that note there, Hugh. I mean, back when he was the Prince, Charles really rallied against a lot of those large-scale housing projects in the United Kingdom, those awful tower blocks that did no one any good over time.
He hates cookie-cutter design. Prince Philip did as well, and he has a keen interest in architecture and really promoting some of the traditional aspects of homemaking, home building and architecture. He believes that many of the things that we've relied on for centuries are actually things that we can look to today, to the extent that he has created an entire town in the southwest of England called Poundbury that he has used as a model for many of those design aspects. It kind of looks like a weird toy town, but is definitely worth a visit if you're down there. These are live pictures from the library at Green Square in Zetland, where the crowds are hoping that Camilla might branch off and say hello after stepping outside.
That's a pretty decent crowd that's turned out there just for a glimpse of the Queen.
just near the train station there in Green Square in the inner south of Sydney. And obviously people have seen the coverage over the last couple of days. They know that if they do step outside and go to some of these places that the royal couple are visiting, they stand a fairly good chance of seeing them in the flesh, which is a big moment for people.
And interestingly, you were talking about Oz Harvest before, and Ronnie Khan, who started that as a way of being able to repurpose food that would otherwise go to waste, and she's been extraordinary in that role. The Queen actually visited Oz Harvest in 2015 on one of their previous tours here before they were King and Queen.
And I think, you know, it's another example of the way that the King and the Queen now, and also the Prince and Princess of Wales, William and Kate, they are always looking to shine a light on how communities can help the underprivileged. It is important for them to bring people up rather than push them down or bring others down.
And it's also that continuation, isn't it, to keep across developments in these organisations rather than just turn up once, shake some hands and then not think about it again.
Yesterday when we were sitting here, guys, we had the moment of the morning, I think you can fairly say, when the llama had a sneeze. The alpaca, was it? There you go. An alpaca had a sneeze on the King. Well, the moment this morning seems to be the parrot on the shoulder. Let's have a look at that. There was a gentleman who went up to the Queen this morning with his parrot, and we're going to have an interview with him as well coming up shortly. So that was that moment this morning, the Queen having a chat to the bloke with the parrot. He's apparently quite an identity around that area, so we're going to have a chat to him. So why don't we take a short break? We'll talk to him in just a minute. Stay with us with our special royal coverage here on 7 News.
Rob and Liam.
Now the tables are turned. We're the judges.
They'll be judge,
Who's staying in the competition?
I don't want them anywhere near me.
jury,
Ribs are easy.
It might be payback time.
executioners.
It's pretty daunting sending someone home.
Tomorrow you're gonna be back a contestant, darling.
I know!
Will
Hurry it up!
go.
With great power comes great responsibility.
You've been eliminated.
The MKR Elimination Night. Tonight, 7:30.
Oh, can I expense this?
Zero. Beautiful business.
Reversing's tricky.
No worries. You're with Budget Direct.
Moneybags Insurer of the Year. 8 years in a row.
Insurance solved with Budget Direct.
Virgin Australia presents the
Let's actually get the plans out of our group chat.
sale. Save up to 30% off selected flights to 36 destinations. Hurry, sale ends Monday, 28 October. Book now at virginaustralia.com.
I'm coming in fast. First place, you coming in last. I'm hitting that gas. I'm hitting that loud. Commotion. We causing a commotion. I put it in, I put it in, I put it in motion. Schweppes, a sip for your senses.
Best things in life are free, 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 free. Best things in life are free.
Frustrated with your whites turning grey over time? Try new Vanish Gold Pro. At 20 degrees, it removes tough stains better than detergent alone. Plus, it keeps your whites crystal white even after 50 washes. Trust Vanish, forget stains.
Eddie, my creator, has found us. We have something he needs.
There's an army coming that cannot be beaten.
Let's finish this.
Venom, The Last Dance, in cinemas Thursday.
We're here for the dreamers, the silent droolers, the human rulers, the quality testers, the opinion requesters, the picture-perfect scene dressers. However you dream, let's make it come true with 75 years of Stratco how-to.
I had a substantial debt and it was costing me a fortune. I had heard about HomeSafe, that I could access equity in my property to pay off that loan without going into further debt. HomeSafe were very easy to deal with. The consultant that came to me saw I was in a dilemma and he was interested in helping me. The contract was all very straightforward and easy to read. I know exactly where I am financially.
HomeSafe, the unique alternative to a reverse mortgage for over 60s.
At Viking, we've thought of everything so you don't have to. Simply unpack once and we'll take care of the rest.
Viking's Fly Cruise sale is on now. For a limited time, enjoy free return flights to Europe. Book now at Viking.com or see your Viking travel agent.
Welcome back to our rolling coverage of the King and Queen's tour today of Sydney. Well, yesterday, Hefner the alpaca had a brush with the King in Canberra. Today, it was this bird that got a chance to meet a royal, capturing the attention of the Queen. Her Majesty had just left Oz Harvest in Surrey Hills when she noticed Caesar the parrot perched on her owner's shoulder, or his owner's shoulder, in the crowd, and that's Pierre, his owner. We caught up with them shortly after.
And who do we have here?
This is Caesar.
What just happened?
I don't know, we were just going past and we thought we'd stop and see what all the fuss was about, and suddenly we had one of the entourage saying, would Caesar like to meet the Queen? And yeah, why not?
Passing by?
Yeah, just going past.
And what happened?
Had a bit of a chat about him and his age and
yeah,
usual things people ask about a parrot when they come across one.
Right. Was Caesar well behaved?
He was actually. He said hello. Didn't get a kiss, but, you know, I don't think you're allowed to touch the royals, are you?
What do you think of the Queen?
She seemed very nice, yeah. Lovely dress.
A bit of a story to tell now.
Yeah. Well, there's one more for the book, so don't worry. He's met quite a few celebrities.
All right, just the latest.
Oh, he's had his photo taken with a few in the last few years. He often gets his photo taken with Tanya Prebischuk. He's done Sam Neill. No. He's getting out there.
Yeah, exactly. Another busy day.
I'm not sure this is going to lift his profile.
Apparently the Queen remarked that he's not camera shy in terms of parrot.
Well, clearly not. So yesterday we had the celebrity alpaca, now we've got a celebrity parrot that seems to have met a lot of famous faces around Sydney as well. They're the wonderful moments that are a bit random along the way, but a lot of it is obviously planned. Hugh Whitfield, let me bring you in now. Just run us through what is happening today, because we're obviously staying live with a lot of the coverage and there's a lot of activity coming up that we'll bring you. What's happening?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the next little while, the King and Queen will come back together after their split programs this morning, and they'll head to Parramatta for that fantastic community barbecue. Keep an eye out for which of the sausages the King and Queen choose to eat. Obviously, traditional beef sausages, no doubt. There's also a mix of Vietnamese and Mediterranean food, a celebration of Western Sydney and its multicultural life out there. And then it'll be back to the eastern part of Sydney, back to the harbour. There'll be some meetings in the city and North Sydney, including a visit to the Melanoma Institute at Wollstonecraft by the King, which will be a pretty poignant moment because the King, of course, as we all know, has been battling cancer for nearly 10 months now. We haven't heard him speak very much about his cancer diagnosis. We don't know what type of cancer the King has, but he will be meeting, of course, with the Australians of the Year, Georgina Long and Richard Scolyer, who are key cancer researchers.
Yeah. And in terms of Richard Scolyer, he himself is on his own cancer journey, having been diagnosed with an aggressive form of brain cancer some 17 months ago now. And essentially what he and Georgina Long have done is they have adapted their treatment for melanoma to now treat Richard's brain cancer and using immunotherapy, and it's had remarkable results. He's been cancer-free for 17 months now, which is remarkable for the type of brain cancer that he has, which I think is glioblastoma. It will be very interesting what kind of conversation they have around cancer treatment.
On that then, Karina, and Hugh might be able to tell us, I just wonder, will they get a chance for a private conversation about that? Because there will be something that I imagine those two men would want to share.
I reckon they might duck behind a closed door for a period. The King's really found himself in a position now where he's become a bit of a champion, particularly for men, to go and get themselves checked, because he went into hospital in January because of those prostate concerns, an enlarged but benign prostate, and then that's where the cancer, or that's when the cancer was found. We don't know where it was found, but he has found himself as a bit of a champion for men's health almost by default. Beyond that, it's the big set-piece moment that we're waiting for this afternoon, which is officially the celebration of the 50th anniversary of the Sydney Opera House. Now, they're about a year late. Unfortunately, they couldn't be here last year, but the Queen opened the Sydney Opera House in October back in 1973. It has been the showpiece for plenty of royal visits over the years. The Queen was last there the late Queen was last there in 2006. The last royal visit was Harry and Meghan back in 2018 when they came just 6 months after their wedding, and the scenes there were wild. The crowds were huge. Will we see the same crowds today? Well, it is definitely possible because it's another sparkling, beautiful October day in Sydney. And Harry and Meghan, they were at the height of their popularity at this time. I don't think we'll see these scenes involving these two here again, but it was a real moment when Harry was very proud to bring the Duchess of Sussex to Australia, show off the sort of work that they were going to do with the Commonwealth. We all know how that story has progressed over the last couple of years. There's a bit of a time warp going back to see Gladys Berejiklian as the Premier in New South Wales, Harry and Meghan at the height of their powers just 6 months after their wedding. And Harry and Meghan throughout that tour engaging with young people. I think this was also the visit where Harry was able to see an older member of the Sydney population who had been to some of his other visits as well. You'll remember their trip out to Dubbo in the rain as well. It was a great tour. And
well, they were rock stars at that time.
They were, and things have moved on from then. Yeah.
What was true of that tour, though, Hugh and Karina, was that, yes, they were there for Harry and Meghan, but we hadn't had a royal in quite a while. And a lot of the royal fans and the royal watchers really wanted to come out and see a royal. And we're seeing it now with Charles and Camilla being here as well. They've waited quite a while. It's a shame it's all gone that way for Harry and Meghan. Probably a discussion for another time because they were so popular. But these were lovely moments back when they were certainly connected to their royal roles, and now it's very much shifted. There's a live shot now. The crowds are starting to build in that same spot where we saw Harry and Meghan some time back.
Well, we heard from Taylor earlier that the gates don't officially open until 3, so these are people waiting to get in to the area where they can then potentially meet the King and Queen.
Get a lot of office workers and tourists around there to head on out to have a look at it. Anyway, that's live shots down there where there's a lot of action later in the day. As Hugh was mentioning, it's a really busy afternoon in Sydney. Representing their visit to Australia, they're in Canberra yesterday as well before they head off to Samoa for the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting later in the week. But they're going to head to Parramatta in Western Sydney. That's where we spoke to Annie Puller just a few minutes ago, so let's go back to her. She went on a mission to find some scones and jam, but I think she's found sausages. Is that right, Annie?
Yeah, Michael, I was going to say sorry to disappoint. It's not scones here, but we have found the barbecue station. This will be one of the first stops on the King and Queen's agenda here today. I want to bring in Chop. You are behind the tools, the man of the moment. How are you feeling?
Bit confident. I'm feeling confident.
You've gone from nervous to confident now.
I'm confident, yes.
Oh, good. Glad to see your confidence is progressing.
Built it up, yeah. Everything's looking great. We've got some nice char on the sausages. Ben's over there turning them. So we're pretty ready. So
you've been cooking them for a while. What goes into this?
Just preparation. We had to start the coals this morning, and we're just cycling through, getting them cooked up, and getting the other guys to serve them over there. So,
and what exactly is on the menu? What sort of snags are we seeing?
A beef sausage, traditional beef sausage. We've got a lamb sausage and a pork sausage for a bar mee over there, which is sensational.
And is there any technique that goes into perfecting the perfect snag? Any techniques on the tools that you draw on?
Just keep turning the sausage. Don't burn the sausage.
Pretty simple.
Pretty simple. It's been going on for years in Australia, and the outbacks everywhere. So.
And the King and Queen, they're expected to come here. Yep. Do you know if they'll actually be eating the sausage?
Well, I'm hoping so. We've been here all day cooking it, so I hope they try the sausage.
And you guys have obviously you have your business in Western Sydney. Yep. You've been operating for 7 years.
That's
How
right.
special is it for you to be able to be here front and centre at this backyard barbecue for the Royals?
It's a great honour to be here and cooking a sausage for the King and Queen, and hopefully they get a nice taste of it.
I don't think you get to say that often. Cooking a sausage for the King and Queen.
That's right, and hopefully he's going to do a double click on the tongs. We'll see if we can get him to do that.
And are we buttering the bread? Because that's a bit contentious.
We are buttering the bread at the surf. It's a flip of a coin. If you butter the bread, don't butter the bread. But don't want to fit the bread, because it's going to fall on the butter.
We'll find out their preferences soon enough. Thanks so much,
Annie,
Chop.
Annie, just
There
before you
go,
let Chop
guys.
go, can you get a question in for me? Just before you let him go.
Oh, Chop, just quickly, we have a question from Michael Usher. Yes.
This is not royal commentary at all. But do you pierce the sausage? Do you poke a few holes in it? Because you know the flare-up's always the problem on the barbecue, right? Do you pierce it or do you just let it go?
I have that problem. Okay, a very important question here from Michael Usher. Do you pierce the sausage or not?
No, do not pierce the sausage because all the juices come out of the sausage, and you just want them to stay in there nice and cook the sausage internally.
Because I always think they're going to explode on me.
Lose all the juices and they're going to be dry.
Right, okay, there you
do
go.
not pierce the sausage.
First hand, you heard it from Chop.
Exclusive, Annie.
Chop's
That's
hot
an
tip.
exclusive
I think
sausage exclusive you got there. Glad I asked the question.
Well, I think you have to take the advice from someone named Chop, don't you?
Yeah, I'm taking Chop's advice. I'm not going to deny that.
Thank you, Chop.
Good on you, Annie. Thank you for that. You've got a lot going on there this afternoon, and we'll bring it to you all live. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
I needed to know that.
Well, clearly.
I needed to learn something out of this as well.
I thought you were doing a public service, but actually it was just totally selfish reasons.
No, I'm happy to share it. Happy to share the information as well, Karina.
OK, well, we're about to go to a break, and when we come back, we will take a look at some of the fallout from Lydia Thorpe's protest in Parliament House yesterday. And these are some of the beautiful live pictures of Sydney Harbour coming to us. That's the Sydney Harbour Bridge. It's a pretty glorious day in the Harbour City, and in just a few hours' time, that area will be packed with people as they wait to meet the King and Queen.
The Voice Grand Finale is here.
Here are your Voice Grand Finalists, Annie, Sky, Jaden and Ruben.
Who will take the crown? And don't miss the superstar performances by Adam Lambert and Keith Urban.
This is it.
A night of entertainment like no other. The Voice Grand Finale, Sunday at 7 on 7 and 7 Plus.
Someone's at KFC. Did someone at KFC?
You'll love cruising with Princess. Save up to 25%, plus get up to $300 on board spending money. Call your travel agent or visit princess.com. Princess, come feel the love.
What's so great about Nivea Black and White? It delivers better anti-staining performance. We tested cotton with Nivea and another with a regular anti-stain competitor. We added skin oils and detergent. After repeating, Nivea shows a clear difference. Try Nivea Black and White.
This makes it simple to manage my super.
I wonder if finding a shortcut could be that simple.
Rest. Super simple.
Super savings or offer in the new Super Cheap Auto catalogue. Save 50% on these Gulf Western 5 litre premium engine oils, plus 20% off Ridge Rider driving lights and light bars. Make it super cheap auto.
The evening newspaper is back. Delivered free to your device at 6 p.m. Get Australia's only digital newspaper to drop nightly. Free at thenightly.com.au.
Don't let hay fever allergies hold you back. Nothing beats Telfast for fast, non-drowsy 24-hour action. Telfast, we know hay fever allergies.
Lions don't do complicated bank apps. They chill. Be the lion, Jay.
The new resealable deli cuts range from Don seals in the freshness, flavour and taste of your delicious deli meats. Don, the irresistible family favourite, is good.
It's me, Cyndi Lauper. I'm going on a Girls Just Want to Have Fun farewell tour.
Don't miss Cyndi Lauper, April 8 at Kudos Bank Arena, Sydney. Tickets on sale 2 p.m. Wednesday, October 23 at Ticketek.
There's a huge range of value when you're with Origin. So much, we'll need to be quick. With an Origin Everyday Rewards plan, you get rewarded every day. We've given away over 5 billion points and counting. Origin Rewards lets you unpack big deals when you move home. And you can score Paramount Plus when you sign up to Origin Internet. Now that's a range of value. No, not orange, a range of good value that never stops. Origin, where all good change starts.
Welcome back to our special 7 News coverage of the visit of the King and Queen, their second official day of appointments anyway. It was in Canberra yesterday, at Sydney today. That's a live shot there of Parramatta Park in Western Sydney. A lot of development and change in that area. The great Eels Stadium, the brand new pool just to the right there too, which only opened about a year ago. Took a while to develop that, but some huge development in that area. Home of the Eels just in the foreground there. And our camera there, the aerial shots just chasing perhaps, no, not quite, a couple of buses, I was going to say, the royal entourage. But it's not. It's people going about their daily business, but the royal couple will be there a little later on. We just saw Annie Puller there talking to the various people at the festival, the fate that's happening there, the sausage expert. We're going to talk to one of the dog trainers there in a minute as well. But let's go to some bigger matters too. We'll go to Canberra and bring in our political reporter, Isabel Mullen in Canberra. Izzy, obviously, the other headline of the day yesterday was Lydia Thorpe and her actions there. Her outbursts, a lot of condemnation and reaction. What's been the reaction in the House today?
Plenty of condemnation, Michael and Karina. Good afternoon. The opposition leader Peter Dutton has labelled this stunt entirely predictable, and to be honest, most politicians here agree with him. She screamed in the Great Hall at King Charles and Queen Camilla, saying to King Charles that you are not our king. Her outburst has also been labelled as un-Australian and rude. She did have a post on social media on her Instagram account as well that said, "You are not our king." That post has since been deleted, and she's claiming that she wasn't the one to upload it. It was actually uploaded by one of her staff. She has doubled down, defending her outburst in the Great Hall.
I did it for truth-telling, global truth-telling about the royals who caused so much devastation.
That outburst really upset a lot of people here. Peter Dutton, the latest to call for her resignation, speaking on Sunrise earlier today.
I think there's a very strong argument for somebody who doesn't believe in the system but's willing to take $250,000 a year from the system to resign in principle.
The outburst didn't seem to upset their majesties. They had a little bit of a chuckle, laughed together before speaking to the Prime Minister and his partner, Jodie Hayden. They were met then by a group of school children who were waiting for them outside of Parliament House. So really only a momentary blip on what was otherwise a seamless day here in the capital. Guys.
All right, Izzy, thank you for that from Parliament House. It was all happening where you were yesterday. It's all in Sydney today. Hugh, let's bring you back in without dwelling too much on it, but international reaction to Lydia Thorpe, obviously with the travelling press pack from the UK in particular. It got a lot of reaction.
Yeah, look, of all the scenes, the beautiful scenes that we saw yesterday, it was the key story that the British press took away. The Sun said that she's awful. The Times says that the palace was blindsided. They believed that the bonds that Charles spoke about during his speech, his ties with Indigenous people that stretch back decades, they thought that that would be kind of enough to get him through this tour. It's clearly not the case. And in fact, some of the royal reporters have been briefed by someone, quote, close to the king, and that could be anyone, saying that that the loudest voice in the room seldom belongs to the wisest mind. I'm not sure that'll go down well with Lydia Thorpe, whether it'll poke the bear or anything like that, but we do know that there are a significant number of Indigenous elements to the program today.
Yeah, and there are several First Nations leaders, including Nova Peris, Marcia Langton, Auntie Violet Sheridan, who was there and did the welcome to country. They felt moved to apologise for what they feared may be a stunt that poorly represents their communities, and those quotes have been picked up by some of the British press. And I understand Lydia Thorpe did a television interview with Sky News.
Yeah, she was on the breakfast program on Sky News, so she's had some international exposure out of this. I think what we learnt, though, from the referendum last year was that Lydia Thorpe doesn't speak for all Indigenous people.
No, she's an extreme end of views, and I think that Sky interview, Karina, Kay Burley was the interviewer, it gave her a hard time.
Yeah, it was pretty tempestuous, pretty toe-to-toe. So, yeah, they've been questioning her about what she's had to say.
But as you said, a lot of Indigenous representatives out and about today during the King and Queen's visit around Sydney, so we'll hear from some of them today also.
Well, Sydney is putting on a show for the Royals today, and canines will give the King and Queen quite the performance at that community barbecue in Parramatta, showcasing the best of New South Wales agriculture. Annie Puller caught up with the team behind that.
Well, guys, we're here with Murray Wilkinson from the Royal Agricultural Society here in New South Wales. Murray, your dogs are expected to be the star of the show today. Talk me through what's going to be happening in here.
Yeah, so quite an honour to be asked here by the Premier's Department to come and put on a bit of a show for the King and Queen. So we'll have the dogs sitting on some drums here, and I'll put them up around the sheep, bring the sheep down in front of one of the dogs sitting on the drums, and the King will be standing beside the dog and load them up into the race here and just show a little bit of what we do every day out on the farm.
I've got to say, you've done this before at the Royal Show, but surely there's a bit more pressure today, knowing that the King and Queen will be watching very closely.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of pressure. Plenty of critics out there, I suppose. So it's look, I've done this quite a few times at Sydney Royal for about 8 years now. So it's just a bit of a routine thing, I suppose. The dogs know what they're doing. It's just their day-to-day job.
Perfect. We can see the sheep; they're already in their spot. But tell me how the ducks come into all of this.
So we do a little bit of a show with one of the dogs on the ducks, and then I work a dog on sheep and I work the other dog on the ducks at the same time, because they've got different commands, so I can steer them in different directions and stuff like that. So
a lot of moving pieces going on.
Yeah, definitely. A little bit to think about when it's all happening.
And they say never work with children and animals. Are you confident they're going to do their job today?
Oh, well, I suppose if the dogs run out, I've got the kids here, so I'll have to go for the other resort, won't I?
How special is it having your family here, being able to showcase the best of regional New South Wales?
Yeah, look, it is pretty special to be able to bring my kids and my family along here, my wife, to be able to be part of this day, here.
And can we ask your boys a quick question?
Yeah, sure.
Boys, are you excited to meet the King and Queen today? Yeah. Do you want to stand next to your brother there? You've got your big hats on. Yes. And what are you most excited about today?
Seeing the King and Queen.
Are you going to shake his hand?
Yes.
A lot of excitement in the crowd here, as you can see, guys. A lot going on, but this will be the place to be when the King and Queen do arrive.
Fantastic, isn't it?
Oh, it's just gorgeous. Yeah. Those kids, I think, are probably a little bit nervous as well as being excited.
Fair enough too.
Yeah.
I think if any of us who go to those, the royal shows around our various cities, the ag fests around the country areas as well, the dog shows are fantastic. The sheepdogs in action, rounding up a few ducks too, they're brilliant. I think the King and Queen might like that when they get there.
Yeah, it's all happening at Parramatta Park, and we are standing by. This are some aerial pictures of the convoy that has the King and Queen on board heading out to Parramatta.
Actually, Hugh, the standards that they fly here, the little flag on the front of the black Audi there that they're travelling in, that was significant. You pointed that out yesterday.
Yeah, so obviously when they're in the UK, we see the Royal Standard flown above Buckingham Palace, but in Australia, it's the King's flag for Australia that is used. That is a tradition that was actually started by his late mother when Queen Elizabeth was on the throne, continued now by King Charles. And when you see it, it's got that white border and then the 6 emblems representing the 6 states, familiar that we would see on the state flags, of course. So the King's flag for Australia that's being flown on the official cars that are being used during this visit. It was flown out of the window of that RAAF plane that they're using for transport. That same plane is going to take them to Samoa as well for CHOGM. So the RAAF looking after their transport while they're in the South Pacific. But yeah, that flag is unique to Australia. It won't be flown anywhere else.
Seemingly they're not too far away from arriving.
No, if you're outside Sydney, Karina, we can just point out that this is Parramatta, the heart of Sydney, and heading into an area that, as I mentioned before, has undergone huge transformation over the past decade. The relocating of a lot of offices and business out there, a huge residential area, obviously the gateway to Western Sydney, Greater Western Sydney, and a very appropriate place for the King and Queen to be today. Our chopper just getting aerial shots there of the Royal Motorcade heading into Parramatta. Hugh and Karina, I would imagine that it got there with a whole lot of faster time than many of us spend trying to get to Parramatta from the various directions of Sydney, given Sydney's traffic these days and the constant state of construction. I bet they sped right through it all.
The metro will be better in a couple of years.
Exactly.
And these are just live pictures from the community barbecue at Parramatta Park, where we can see the surf life-saving crew members who are going to be...
And chop with his tongs.
Yeah, behind the barbecues, helping serve up some of those sausages for all of the barbecue attendees.
What we might do, look at all those bottles of sauces on the ready too, so they're well and truly ready. What we'll do is take a brief break because, as we're seeing in the live shots there, the King and Queen are about to arrive at Parramatta. We want to take that live, so we'll take a short break and be back to you in a tick.
Which of these puzzle pieces doesn't belong here?
It's the king of game shows.
Philly, what did you put?
I put E.
Well, E's the right answer.
The one next to it.
With excitement at every turn.
What would you do if you won the money tonight?
I'd like some eyebrows for expressions. I think eyebrows would help. This is my surprised. And my confused.
New the 1% Club UK. Wednesday on 7 and 7+.
There's a lie, a certain kind of light that always shines on me. There's a way everybody said to do each and every little thing. Oh, you must know what it's like, baby. You must know what it's like to love somebody, the way I love you.
Thrill your senses with Murray River Salted Caramel by Connoisseur.
Mercy Ships volunteers bring hope, healthcare and life-changing surgeries to people with no other option. Not everyone can volunteer, but you can help. Join us today by giving what you can. Mercy Ships, vessels of hope.
The working life. You wake up, you work, you get paid. You wake up, you work, you get paid. Until one day, you wake up to a whole new rhythm and still get paid. Aware Super helps you find your rhythm of retirement. That's super helpful.
Get into The Good Guys for a massive TV sale. Get up to $1,000 off Samsung The Frame TVs. $100 off this Hisense QLED TV. $500 off this LG 75-inch TV. Plus $50 off this Hisense soundbar. Pay less every day at The Good Guys.
Progress is enhanced, refined, elevated. The Audi Q5 Dynamic Black Edition at $85,900 drive away. That's progress you can feel.
We jumped on this sofa every time our toddlers eventually went to sleep. Fantastic Furniture is celebrating 35 years of living with Aussies.
exceedingly good cakes. When the lucky country isn't so lucky, it's lucky you're with Amy.
Lucky you're with Amy. Hearing Australia is Reader's Digest's most trusted hearing brand 4 years running. Get your free 15-minute hearing check for adults and $0 fully subsidised hearing aids for eligible pensioners. Book an appointment today. Hearing Australia.
Medicines just got cheaper for a range of ongoing health conditions.
Really pleased.
Now, more PBS medicines can be prescribed for 60 days, giving you twice the medication on a single prescription.
Saving you money and time.
Ask your doctor if a 60-day prescription is right for you or visit health.gov.au/cheaper medicines.
Authorised by the Australian Government, Canberra.
Good to have your company on our Special 7 News Royal coverage. Live shots there. The King and Queen have reunited after the morning apart at some various functions, and they've now arrived at Parramatta, as we've been discussing. Parramatta Park there, being greeted by the dignitaries, a bunch of New South Wales politicians essentially. And they came in separate vehicles because they had been at those separate functions, but now they're getting together there, and they'll head off to those various stalls and displays of food, agriculture, all sorts of things on display out there that we've been showing you this morning. The New South Wales Premier Chris Minns there on the left for those outside of New South Wales who don't know him, and the King popping on his pretty cool sunnies. Saw him in yesterday too.
I think there are going to be, so we're seeing a small smoking ceremony taking place here.
Maybe have a listen to the audio too, what's being said to the King.
Thank you.
Move it back, move it back.
So that's King Charles with the New South Wales Premier Chris Minns, as well as the Deputy Premier Prue Carr is there, and they will now greet some of the members of the Western Sydney community who've gathered there or been invited to this community barbecue with the King and the Queen. Hugh?
There's all sorts of things that are going to be happening in Parramatta Park this afternoon. Lots of different parts of life in Western Sydney, but also across New South Wales. The Surf Lifesavers, they're the boss of Surf Lifesaving New South Wales, and also the president of the Royal Agricultural Society. So the bush meeting the coast like it does every year at the Royal Easter Show in Sydney. There's basically a mini version of the Royal Easter Show in Parramatta Park this afternoon. Representatives and community leaders from right across the city. They'll have a chance to see a sheepdog display. There's a backyard cricket demonstration hosted by the Sydney Thunder Big Bash team, and also a chance to take part in some henna tattooing as well. So a real multicultural mix.
Do we think that King Charles might get his hands on a cricket bat?
Look, that'd be great to see. I reckon if William and Kate were there, they are the most competitive royal couple.
Yeah,
and
they really get
they would
into
be
it, don't
out
they?
to get each other. Well, I don't know that we've seen Charles with a cricket bat in his hand for a while, so it would be good to see, or whether Camilla rolls the arm over and tries to trap him LB or something.
He did mention cricket, didn't he, yesterday?
He was talking about, I think cricket was raised in the speech.
Rugby, yeah.
Yeah, so I think we know where his heart lies, probably England when it comes to the Ashes, but a great mix of Australian and Western Sydney life in particular gathered at Parramatta Park.
Now, I don't know whether it's just because it's lunchtime and everyone might just be a little bit hungry, but the menu is a hot topic. What can you tell us about the sausages that are on offer?
Well, we've seen the sausages being cooked on the barbecue. There's a mix of Vietnamese cuisine as well, Vietnamese take on the sausage. There's a little bit of a Mediterranean influence as well. The key thing here is just how often King Charles eats a beef sausage, because I can tell you that after living in the UK for 10 years, finding a beef sausage is really hard. All they seem to eat there is pork sausages, the breakfast sausage or the Cumberland. You know, you go to Tesco these days and there's all sorts of weird and wacky things in the sausages, but they're mainly pork. You've got to go and search the beef sausages out. So a beef sausage, which we know in Australia, will be possibly... might take him back to his days at Timbertop as a 16-year-old when they probably had a few outdoor sausage sizzles in the bush in Victoria.
Hugh, are there any protocols around what the royals eat in public? If you go back a few centuries, they had a royal taster who went ahead just to make sure it was all fine and, more the point, not poisoned.
Yeah, well, if you go back 500 years when the royals were in Hampton Court Palace, the king would eat in front of people. It was a display. It was part of entertainment where the king would be brought into a room and given a huge banquet and people would watch him eat. Things are a little bit different these days. We very rarely saw the late Queen eat in public. But
There's a lovely
Camilla,
moment, though, too, there, Hugh, because remember we spoke to Annie earlier and she was talking to a few of those kids down there on the mat making their various arts and crafts, and now they actually get to meet the Queen and say hello to her themselves.
Well, they've spent the morning in the sunshine preparing their gifts and preparing for this little demonstration that'll be shown to the Queen, and she's willing to get down and have a chat, and she'll be very interested in what they've been up to this morning and what they can offer in terms of reflecting life in Western Sydney.
And this really is about showcasing the diversity of this part of Sydney, this part of Australia.
Yeah, absolutely. It's probably something different that we've seen compared to the rest of the program. There's all sorts of important, I guess, meetings that have to take place in Canberra yesterday with the Prime Minister and the opposition leader, but this is where they get to actually not just meet and greet the people, but also find out what their lives are like. What's life like in Western Sydney? How diverse is it really? And what is it like growing up in a multicultural place like Parramatta?
And so you can see the Vietnamese influence in a lot of the activities that are taking place in this community barbecue today. Oh, wow.
And there's the hat. There's the hat on the head. The perfect tiara. A very Australian tiara.
Fitting for a queen.
Absolutely.
That's a really creative effort too, isn't it? A feather. I'm looking at a bit of bark as well and some beautiful flowers around the edge there. Fantastic. And the Queen proudly wearing it as well. I think the King's impressed.
I think he likes it.
Can we hear any of that, I wonder?
And do we think maybe there might be one for the King?
Cool. You're good to go, Tracy.
But just crouch down.
I think he sniffed it because there are some flowers on it.
I think he had a quick smell. This is the thing about Camilla, though. She's the one who is willing to try the food, to put the crown on, to try something different. She's the one who's able to connect with people, possibly more than the King in many cases.
Yesterday, you called her the King's secret weapon.
Yeah. The first event that I went to many years ago with Camilla was in London at an event that was actually hosted by some Australian chefs, and afterwards they were most overwhelmed by just how easy she was to be in the presence of. She's very easy to have a chat, very easy to communicate with.
Here's the sausage test. Chops at the ready with his tongs. He's ready to do the double click. And we should mention too that the surf lifesaving community getting ready to help serve that today. They're being represented there.
And those meet and greets are happening now.
We're all from Coogee and he's from Wonga. That's just down near trouble and stop people getting in trouble.
Do a lot of surfing?
Oh, they're quite well behaved. Especially in Edmonton, you don't know anyone.
So glad it's the red.
No, that's great people, yeah.
And have you got some good balls? Do you make them?
I don't make the balls, no. I've got some good ones. Oh no, pleasure to meet you. Tell us about it with you.
How are the sausages coming?
They've been doing all the cooking.
I don't
know, what do I think?
The beef. Well, then you stick it in something.
bread. We've got some bread. Got some barbecue onions.
You ready?
So I have the great honour of representing these amazing.
All right, well, Hugh, I think you were right. You were on the money with your analysis of what the king might be looking for, because he asked a very direct question there. What sausages are they? And they were told they were beef. He seemed excited.
Well, it's going to be a new experience for him, potentially. And, of course, the King has a pretty good relationship as well with the Australian surf. Back when he was a younger man, climbing out of the surf at Cottesloe Beach in Western Australia to be greeted by a young female friend. So
Get a little bit of a kiss.
Back in his pin-up days. So he's pretty familiar with the Australian surf. And, in fact, there's an exchange program, mainly one way, that goes on where Australian surf lifesavers and lifeguards often head to English beaches to teach some of the lifesavers and lifeguards over there about how it can really work. The Australian surf's a little bit rougher sometimes than the fairly sedate beaches in England.
And we heard some of those surf lifesavers introducing themselves to the King and Queen. Most of them, I think, are from Coogee, and then one of them's from Bondi, which we know that King Charles, at least, has spent a bit of time at Bondi Beach.
Here we go.
Well, there's the double tap of the tongs.
He's done the double tap, and he's on the double tap, and he's on the tongs.
So the chefs will be very happy, and here we go. He's going to have a spin of the sausages to make sure that they're well cooked. Looks like a few different varieties there as well.
I think Camilla might have got the beef range.
Briquettes and charcoal, lump charcoal, yeah.
And a wonderful Aussie soundtrack for them as well in the background as they tend to the barbecue, the royal couple.
It really is the man down under now, isn't it?
Camilla's got the double tap going too with the tongs.
I'm surprised to see Cole barbecues there. He'll be familiar with those, but, you know, often it's the gas that does the trick.
Might have been a bit worried about having gas bottles nearby. You've got your leads going in the wrong direction. So. Oh, there's some good attention here with the barbecue. Chop will be happy in the background there. He's standing to the right of frame with his tongs, just ready to step in, just in case. It looks like the royals are now departing the barbecue. The king has left the barbecue.
Well, there's still quite a few activities left to go there, including some performances as well. So we will keep you across all of the developments.
There we go. As we know, Hugh and Karina, the King and Queen, will spend a bit of time here, and Sydney's really turned it on. When they arrived the other day, it was bucketing with rain. It wasn't that pleasant at all, but they'll spend some time here before heading back to other parts of Sydney in the afternoon. Obviously a lot of interest around them here at Parramatta, Hugh.
A lot of history in Parramatta Park as well. The scene of Old Government House, one of the first government buildings built west of the original settlement, the original white settlement at Sydney Cove. So it's a place that the Royals have been before, of course, Parramatta, but for the King and Queen, it's pretty special. A few boys there from the King's School, which is just up the road on Pennant Hills Road in Parramatta too, in their school uniforms. So a real coup, I think, for Western Sydney to be able to have the royal couple there. They could have gone to any number of the parts of Sydney or New South Wales over the course of this fairly limited tour of Australia over these couple of days, but Parramatta is the place to be well and truly this afternoon.
Are we expecting to hear from the King today?
I'm not sure that we'll hear remarks per se. I think we're going to hear those little, what we might call upsots, or little takeaway grabs where he might be talking to people on the ground, and some of those key moments that we'll be looking for in particular will of course be when he goes to the Melanoma Institute in Wollstonecraft later in the day.
And the Queen there having a good chat whilst the King is just in the background there. It seems to be the Deputy Premier of New South Wales, Prue Carr, has been given the task of making sure that Queen Camilla shuffles along in her various parts. But
So I think we can bring in Annie Puller now, who's speaking to some of the surf lifesavers who just managed to meet the King and the Queen. Annie.
Guys, we're here with our local heroes now. They were supposed to serve up the perfect royal snag, but it looks like the King and Queen wanted to get behind the barbie themselves.
They sure did. They had to turn to the tongs, which was fantastic.
How was that experience for you?
Really good, really good. I'm very lucky to be here today, and they're really,
And I saw the King and Queen were quite chatty. What did they say to you?
They were asking about our new drones, how they detect sharks in our area, and it was really exciting to tell them about that.
Obviously, you're a volunteer. You guys do incredible work keeping our beaches, our communities safe. How special was it to have that royal seal of approval just then?
Oh, it's really exciting. It's super exciting for Surf Life Saving as a brand to get that royal seal of approval.
Perfect. And did you have any moments with the King or Queen yourself?
Yeah, I told him we'd keep him safe if he ever came down to Coogee, which is 3 of our local beach. It was just a huge honour. Never thought I'd be representing Surf Life Saving Australia when I started when I was 5.
And how are you feeling after that experience? A bit nervous, a bit shaky, or okay?
A bit nervous. I can't really believe it's happened. And he was so lovely, so chatty. So was Her Majesty. So just honoured.
And I saw the King was presented with what looked like a Surf Life Saving cap. Can you tell us about the significance of that cap?
Yeah, so the Surf Life Saving quarter cap has been involved with Surf Life Saving since day started back in 1907. So it's a really big part of our uniform, about our heritage. So we're very proud of that, so he can have one as well.
And the King has visited Bondi before. I think it was, back in the 1960s he was wearing one of those caps. So good to see that connection is still running deep.
Oh, 100%, and great he could come back this year as well, that he has a wonderful affiliation with Australia, so he's welcome every time.
And they did look quite interested in the snags, didn't they?
They were really interested. I think they would have loved to have taken some, but we can organise a takeaway pack if needed. But if nothing else, they've learned how to turn the tongs in the exact way. But so proud of the Surf Life Savers here.
Yeah. And this is all about celebrating what's on offer here in Western Sydney, guys. You just got a first-hand look. Pretty incredible experience for these volunteer Surf Life Savers.
All right, Annie, thank you for that. We might get you to go and chase Chop, who was on the barbecues before as well. He might have a particular take on his encounter with the King as well. We'll let you go and do that. The King there still continuing on with the meet and greet. Obviously, a really enthusiastic reaction out there, which I guess we would have expected, but lovely to see it happening in all the sunshine and the various... obviously, there's general public out there as well, Karina, but as we've been mentioning too, Parramatta being an absolute heart of multiculture, not only in the city of Sydney, but for all of Australia, multicultural Australia. So great representations from all the various community leaders, the local schools, the Surf Lifesavers, who are also doing a good job at various pools out and about in parts of Sydney as well, not just on our coast. Yes, and pretty eclectic soundtrack playing as well out there. Hugh, you were running us through some of the activities that are taking place during this community barbecue and the various groups that have been assembled to meet the King and Queen. Yeah, that's right. Earlier it was Peter Strawn and Matthew Doyle who were involved in that smoking ceremony. On their arrival, they'll have a chance to see some henna tattooing. There's a backyard cricket display that's being hosted by the Big Bash team, the Sydney Thunder, and of course the RAS, the Royal Agricultural Society sheepdog display will be underway as well. Local school groups are involved. There are dance groups from across the community. There's an art collective called Art Mandala, which works using many of the unique plants that are grown in Western Sydney parklands as part of their designs. And it was a nature crown, it's called, that was handed to Queen Camilla earlier, and that was created by local school students using the leaves and flowers and natural materials that they find around the school, around the park. A nice little thing to pull together for Camilla. Yeah, and another thing that's being showcased is the state's regional produce, with producers being invited there to showcase their wares. We know that Queen in particular is very interested in things like that. Absolutely. She's always the one that's going to try the food, try the sausage. Let's hope at some point they get to have some lunch today, because they've got a really busy schedule, and now would be a good time for lunch. Obviously, it's being cooked in front of them. How could you resist an Aussie sanger? So a really good chance for everyone to have a chance to meet the King and Queen and tell them, in very brief words, their story, why they're there, what charity they're representing, what community group they come from, whereabouts in New South Wales they are. And Annie Puller's in the crowd there as well, so we might just have a little listen. Queen Camilla, are you enjoying Western Sydney? She's very busy greeting people, as you can see.
There we go, another bunch of flowers given to Queen Camilla here as she makes her way along this incredible crowd. We've got all the phones out. And what a moment for Western Sydney. So many of these people, as we know, have been invited here. The Queen is right now speaking to a woman from Marine Rescue. So many volunteers in this crowd as we go to air. The Queen slowly making her way up, giving handshakes, making the time for everyone who has turned out today.
Yeah, there's certainly every community group represented along the line there, and rightly so. The Queen's a bit focused on them at the moment rather than hearing Annie's question in the crowd. Good try though. Absolutely, you had to get a question in, didn't you?
Well, yesterday the King answered Taylor's question about being in Canberra, and he said that the weather was nicer than in Sydney. It's not often you'd say that about Canberra.
A bit of a different scene today.
It's good to see some people dressed up as well for the King and Queen. Obviously, it's not often that you turn up to a barbecue in a full suit like the King has today, but looks like a few people might be ready for the races if they're...
Well, they treat it like those royal garden parties, don't
as they should.
That they have in the back of Buckingham Palace.
As they should. And, you know, there are dozens of Australians who get to go to those garden parties at Buckingham Palace every year. There's a ballot that takes place that Australia House is involved in, so the Aussies who live in London can apply for a ticket to go to those garden parties, and that's often an opportunity every year. There's about 3 or 4 that take place in the English summer. That's an opportunity for British charities to do something like this, bring their community leaders together, the charities that the King or the Queen or William and Kate might be patron of, to go to the palace, have a cup of tea and a sandwich in what is effectively the royal backyard. But it's not often that we get the King and Queen in Australia, so this is effectively our version of those garden parties.
And even in 2011, when Queen Elizabeth was last in Australia, and it was talked about at the time that it was probably her last time to come to Australia. She was in Perth for Choggum in 2011, and they had an afternoon tea garden party. And I remember the milliners in Perth were so busy because all of the guests who'd been invited wanted to have their absolute best regalia on, and so they wanted headpieces and hats made, and everyone turned out in their finest.
Absolutely. It's like 5 race days in one.
Let's go to Annie Puller now, who got to chat to the Queen there. Annie?
Michael, you're joined by a group of school students here who have just shaken Queen Camilla's hand. I'll start with you. Now, you managed to give the Queen a necklace. A bracelet. Talk me through that bracelet. Why is it special?
Well, it says my name on it, so like she can remember me, and also it was blue, like so it matched her dress.
And the Queen actually took the bracelet.
Yeah. She put it on her hand. Yeah.
She put it on her hand.
Wrist, yeah.
Were you surprised?
Excited, I guess, yeah.
How do you feel knowing your bracelet is now on the hand of Queen Camilla?
Yeah, it's really amazing, yeah.
Must be a bit speechless.
Yeah.
And guys, you also managed to have your moment with the Queen. What happened?
So she came over from the other side of the royal rope, and then she came to these 2 girls here first. And then she came to us. So she was just greeting us and we were greeting her. We shook her hand.
Wow.
And actually Annabelle managed to give her flowers.
Annabelle, you managed to give the Queen some flowers. Did she say anything to you?
Yeah, she's like, oh, thank you for this. And then I told her I brought them to her because I had my grandma actually, her like class, because she was a school teacher, her class was able to meet Queen Elizabeth II. Wow. So one of her students got some flowers and actually was able to greet the Queen, so I wanted to do the same.
Very special moments here, and yourself, I know you also managed to have an interaction with the Queen. How exciting is it to be skipping school, should I say, and meeting the King and Queen?
Yeah, it's very exciting. Never in a million years when I applied for school captain that I think I was going to meet the Queen. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I think everyone here is just a little bit speechless in this crowd. As you saw, guys, the King and Queen were incredibly personable, taking the time to shake hands, meet as many people as possible, and it's really interesting that, you know, that they are incredibly interested in what is happening in Western Sydney, making sure they do have those connections that leave a lasting impression. Guys.
Thank you, Annie. Your cameraman on the chase again there. He's obviously seen something of interest as we look back on the King now, still mingling there. taking a decent amount of time in the crowd there, which is terrific. And there's been a wonderful Aussie soundtrack playing through the whole thing as well. A bit of Johnny Farnham coming on right now as well. The Queen in the background there. So they've had a good taste of Australia here at Parramatta Park.
And I think they were always scheduled to spend a significant amount of time at this event. We know this is a pared back royal tour. They would have liked to have taken in more cities, even more countries like New Zealand, but because of the King's cancer treatment and cancer diagnosis, this is a much shorter trip than was originally scheduled, and these are the pictures that will go all around the world of the King and the Queen on the tools behind the Barbie.
Do you know, it's a funny thing, Hugh, if you look back on some of the archive vision of the royal family, we make a big song and dance about them turning a few sausages at a barbecue in Parramatta Park, but if you look at the more intimate family album of the royals over time, there are those summer shots back in the 60s and 70s of Prince Philip and the Queen on their portable barbecue out the back of Balmoral, when they would take a grill out the back in their private moments and do exactly this, just as much of a normal family as they possibly could, but this is what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, Charles spends much of his downtime at Highgrove these days, which is the home in Gloucestershire that he has had for a couple of decades. It's where, when William and Harry were very young, they had a cubby house in the gardens, and he's recreated a kitchen garden in the surrounding part of the walled garden that goes around Highgrove House. He's very interested in food, where food comes from, sustainability of food, and making sure that food miles are short. So I reckon the sort of questions that he'll be asking the farmers and the producers are about where the beefs come from.
Because we did hear, I think, from one of the producers who's showing their wares there earlier, that they had some kind of organic free-range kasundi, which is like fermented mustard seed. So there are some, there's a rich and diverse variety of produce on show that's come from all over the state of New South Wales, and this is really a showcase and a showpiece for it. And you can see that the King is very interested in what is on show.
Look up the back. I think the Queen's more interested in the jam, because that's the jam stall. I saw that earlier. She's sticking on the preserves.
I think you're very interested in the jam.
I'm very interested in the jam.
Well, she wants to take some
Who doesn't love a good homemade jam?
On scones, and that's the thing, that they're more familiar with scones, cream and jam, and they're going to have to learn a bit about Aussie cuisine.
Yeah, well, interestingly, and this is not a plug in any way, but the Queen's son, Tom Parker Bowles, has just released a book called Cooking in the Crown, and it's royal recipes from Queen Victoria to King Charles III. Now, within it, apparently, is the exact martini recipe that King Charles likes and how he likes to have his drink. But it's a journey in time. And I think I saw one interview with him where he was making a royal curry, and essentially there's no chilli in it, which, as someone who's made and eaten a lot of curry, that seems blasphemous to not have chilli in it.
Crime, isn't it, Karina?
Pretty much. Yeah. And he said that his mother does not like curry. She doesn't eat curry, but he said that growing up, she was always in the kitchen, always preparing meals for them. So, as you say, very much interested in local produce, finding out where it's from, the sustainability of it.
And Charles, when he was the Prince of Wales, and Camilla when she was the Duchess of Cornwall, part of that role as Prince of Wales that William has taken on is the ownership of the Duchy of Cornwall down in the southwest of England. And
there's that lovely moment where she's put on a bit of a bush tiara. I think we can call it that, can't we?
Bush tiara, I love it.
The nature crown. The nature crown.
Not too sure we're going to see that at Westminster in Palaces anytime soon, Hugh, but a wonderful little creation of all those kids there who'd been toiling away for some time in the sun down there. They put out their mats and they had their various bits of local produce and flowers and bark and feathers to make these little tiaras that they presented to the Queen there. Local mayor there giving a bit of a guided tour to the King as well. Interesting of note, I haven't seen any broader pictures or wider shots in our coverage so far, but there seem to be select groups of school children, not the big classes of school children that we saw in Canberra yesterday. Perhaps in the ACT they were a bit more liberal so to speak, in the small sense, not the political sense, to allow more children to turn out there yesterday.
I think also this is a community event where people have been invited specifically, so I don't think that they were probably able to facilitate big crowds of school children being in attendance. But we might just...
Person of note out there, I should say, Karina, is our very own Mel McLaughlin from 7 Sport and 7 News, proudly Western Sydney. And she was invited out there today to meet, so no doubt, perhaps on the sport desk tonight, as she'll have a chat with our various news presenters around the country.
We'll see if we can
greet.
We can send Annie to her and they can have a little chat. Let's see whether she meets the King and the Queen.
What we might do is just take a short break. The King and Queen have been in Parramatta Park after a busy morning in and around Sydney, and they have a huge afternoon ahead where they'll be returning to in and around the harbour, the Opera House, with some pretty majestic events planned for them this afternoon. This is our 7 News special coverage of the royal tour of the King and Queen. We're back in a minute.
Barker comes clean.